Hey, good morning. How you doing, Joe? Joe here. Listen, sales is the $1 million skill, and if you're not on this phone, you're not making money. But so many of us look at this thing like an 800-pound cactus. We're like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to sellers. This is so hard. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Isn't there a way to do deals without talking to sellers? Well, there is. But on this video, I'm going to show you real simple strategies, simple questions you can ask where when you're talking to sellers, it's very natural. There's no pressure, no salesy hype. It's just you and a seller, and all you're doing is asking them questions. It's very simple and easy. And I'm going to walk through a script that I use for my vacant land deals. You can use this for houses. And all I'm doing is asking the sellers questions. It's a very simple model. And I want to remove the fear of talking to sellers, because when you understand like just the power of asking questions, this makes everything so much easier. All right, so shall we jump into this? Let's go. By the way, you can get this script for free at simplelandkit.com. In that, I have my contracts, my direct mail swipe file, my scripts for sellers and for realtors, my software that I use to evaluate deals and to make offers, and this script is one of the things in there. So go to simplelandkit.com to get this for free. Now, when I'm talking to sellers, one of the important things to understand is I play the role of the reluctant buyer, right? I'm not chasing them. In fact, the harder you chase sellers, the faster they'll run. And so when I'm talking to a seller, I'm just asking questions. I'm kind of like, sometimes I'll start my conversation with, hey, I saw your property here, or I'm returning your call. Do you mind if I ask you some questions to see if your property would be something I'd be interested in? So I'm not selling a program, all right? I'm just interested in maybe buying their property among the 100 other properties that I'm looking at today. So I'm not trying to sell them, I'm not chasing them, I'm not trying to convince them to do anything. I don't even have to come up with an offer and give them an offer on the phone that day. And when you change your mindset on this, it makes everything so much easier. You need to pretend like you have $1 million burning a hole in your pocket, and you do. Because when you find a good deal, guys, you'll have millions of dollars wanting to buy that deal from you. So you need to pretend like you've got $1 million burning a hole in your pocket and you're just looking for a deal to buy. It's as simple as that. So we're not selling anything. This isn't some MLM. This isn't some scammy sales thing. You don't have to be Grant Cardone, right? Like you can just be you. And in fact, the more just like you are, the better you'll do. So it doesn't matter if you're a 70-year-old grandma, if you're a 14-year-old kid, you just talk to people. You just ask them questions about the property and say, okay, that sounds good. And I'm going to walk through some questions, and then you send them an offer. It's as simple as that. It's very, very easy. But here's the key to this. I can virtually guarantee your success if you can talk to 5. If you can have 5 of these conversations every day, you will do deals. It's as simple as that. Just have 5 of these conversations. It could be with a property manager, with a realtor, with a seller, with another investor. And you just say, hey, I'm looking for deals. Do you got anything? Tell me about this deal. Why do you want to sell it? All right, so let's go through this. I prefer direct mail because now when I'm calling people, I'm returning their call. So I'll say something like, hey, I was returning your call about the vacant lot that you've got for sale. Sounds like I caught you in the middle of something. It's a simple question I like to ask. It's called negative phrasing. I can't dive too deep into this, but I just say, it sounds like I caught you at a bad time. I caught you in the middle of something. And they'll say, no, this is good. All right, so I'm going to set the agenda. I always set the agenda. I say, well, I'm looking for some property to buy today, and I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about your property to see if it would be something I'd be interested in. And they say, okay, cool. I say, well, I got some questions here. I'm just going to ask you, and then I'll send you an offer, and then we can go from there. Is that okay? That's it. I'm going to ask them some questions about the property. And I'm just going to ask him questions about, if it's a house, beds and baths, when was the last time it was fixed, the kitchen was remodeled, when was the last time the roof was replaced, is there a tenant in there, is it vacant, what was the rent? So I'm just going to go through, I'm not going to go through these kinds of questions now, but I want to get to the motivation questions. After you've kind of asked them about the property, if it's vacant land, does it have road access? Has it had a perk test? Is it, how many acres is it? Are there utilities and things like that? So you get some information about the property, about the house or the vacant lot, and then you're going to ask them questions about motivation. And this is the important part of this. And by the way, I should mention this. For every 5-10 minutes that you're on the phone with the seller, you should be talking maybe 1 or 2 minutes max. 95% of the conversation is listening. 5% is you talking, and when you're talking, you're asking questions. So if you were to listen to some of my calls or some of the coaches that I learned sales from, we're never on the phone longer than 5 minutes, maybe 10 max. And for that 5 or 10 minutes, we've asked maybe 20 or 30 questions. That's all it is. We are asking questions because whoever asks the most questions stays in control. And you want to stay in control of the conversation. You're the one asking the questions. Once the seller starts asking you too many questions, you've already lost right there, okay? So when you're thinking, put your your disinterested buyer hat on, and you're the one asking the questions. Now, some of the questions that I love to ask, and if you want this script again, just go to simplelandkit.com. First question I like to ask is, man, this sounds like a really nice property. Why would you even want to sell it? Great question, right? Or maybe, sounds like a nice property. Why haven't you sold it yet? If it's listed on the MLS already, or if it's being rented. Sounds like a nice property. Why would you even want to sell it? Why not just keep on renting it out? I want to find out, not if they just want to sell it, but do they need to sell it? There's a big difference between need to sell and want to sell. So, sounds like a nice property. Why do you even want to sell it? Another way to ask that would be like, well, what would you like to see happen? You're not in a hurry to sell this property, right? You got lots of time, right? Why don't you just rent it out again? Why don't you just fix it up, list it on the MLS? You've got lots of time, right? When were you hoping to be able to sell it? Is another question I like to ask, right? Is this a now thing or a later thing for you? Another way I like to ask this is when I'm talking to them, I say, what's more important to you? Is it to sell it fast or to get the most price, the highest price possible for it, okay? And then this is a great question here. Why don't you just list it with a realtor, right? Or if it is listed, I'm saying, you've had it listed. Oh, I'm sure you've gotten lots of offers, right? If it's not listed, why don't you just list it with a realtor and they'll get you the highest price for it. Now, I always recommend to sellers to list their property with an agent because that is the best way for them to sell their property for the highest amount possible, to get it in front of the most people. I let them know I'm not a retail buyer. I'm not going to pay you full price for your property. I'm an investor. But if you want full price for your property, I'm not the guy. Right? You should list it with a realtor. This way, again, the seller can never accuse you of taking advantage of them, trying to steal the property from them. I'm not lying to them. I'm not telling them their property is worth this when it's really worth this, right? I'm saying you should, if you want the highest price for it, you should list it with an agent. We're doing good on time here. I'm trying to go through this so fast. There's so many things I can share with this because sales is the $1 million skill. And once you learn how to listen, how to ask questions, you can make money in any business, especially real estate, okay? Just listening and ask questions. Being yourself. You're not trying to be, RJ Bates is a beast. You see him doing all these cold calling, winning these challenges and competitions on YouTube, right? And you try to be like RJ. Another guy, Claude Diamond, is one of my coaches that I learned sales from. Go check out his YouTube channel, Claude Diamond. If I try to be like Claude, man, I fall flat on my face. You just got to be yourself and ask questions like this, okay? All right, here's some more questions. Well, what do you think the property's worth, right? How did you come up with that number? Did you think that's a fair price for this crazy market? Sometimes if I'm talking to an investor, I'll ask them, put yourself in my shoes. Would you pay if they say the property's worth 30 grand? Would you pay 30 grand for this property? And just shut up and listen. And by the way, shutting up and listening is so important too, because when you ask these questions, you need to shut up and listen. Well, this is a great question. What are you going to do, Mr. Seller, if you can't sell this property at that price? Shut up and listen. You might get uncomfortable at first, like, oh, silence, is uncomfortable. But when you ask me these questions, just be quiet and listen. What are you going to do if you can't sell this property? Now, when I was doing a lot of lease options on houses, I would say, what are you going to do if you can't sell this house? Are you going to rent it out? Or if it's vacant lot, you could say, what are you going to do if you can't sell this property for this price? Are you going to list it with an agent? Have you ever thought about maybe selling it with owner financing or something like that? So I'm asking these motivation questions, and there's a ton of them on there as well. Maybe the next one you could ask is, well, if I could pay you all cash and close quickly, you didn't have to pay any closing costs, you didn't have to pay your realtor commissions or whatever, what's the best price that you would consider? Or what's the least you would take? And this kind of a question where you get into the bottom line number. Give me a range. What are you looking for? What would make you happy? What price do you want? I'm going to ask that 3 or 4 different ways. I'm going to keep on asking them that and asking them if they could go any lower than that. When they give me a price or whatever, if they don't give me a price, I might pull the property up on Redfin and I might look at what other properties are actively listed for or what they've sold for recently. And I might say, well, I'm seeing some properties here that are actively listed for this. You wouldn't consider anything in that price range, would you? Or I've seen some that have sold here recently for this. Is that crazy? Sometimes this is another little key trick here. If they won't tell me a price, I might say, well, I don't know what I'm going to offer you yet. I don't even know if I want your property, to be honest, because I've not seen it yet. I don't know much about it. But my offer is probably going to make you mad. I always preface this. My offer is going to be really, really low. Are you sure you want me to tell you what I would offer for it? And I chuckle. So yeah, I said, well, I don't know. I mean, since you won't tell me what you want for your property, if I would offer, I'm looking here at sold properties recently. If I were to offer you like $5,000, what would you do? And most of the time they're like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to give my property away. And they get all mad. I said, well, wait a second. I mean, I said if. A good thing I didn't offer you that though, right? And then I'll say, well, what do we need to do to kind of get you somewhere closer to that number? I just ask them, what is the least you would take? And I ask that over and over and over and over again. I ask them, is that price negotiable? Is that the best you can do? And then you just say, well, you know, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do some due diligence. I know you said you want 20 for the property or whatever, but if I do some due diligence and I find some other properties that I can buy that are cheaper than that, or based on some of my due diligence and research, how negotiable is that price? Keep on asking that over and over again. All right. Well, thank you so much. Listen, I'm going to do some research. I'll get back to you later today. What's your best email address so I can email you my offer? I want their email address. I want their phone number. I want their mailing address, because this is important. Whenever you send offers, you want to send it in the mail. You want to send it in a text. You want to call them back. You want to do digital signatures. You want to do, did I say physical mail? Always send your offers in the physical mail. So now you can follow up with them. Okay. So it all starts with the conversation. And then the final question I sometimes like to ask is, I say, if we can agree on the numbers and we can put a deal together today, would you sign the agreement? The reason I'm asking that is because I want to know, is there somebody else that they need to discuss this with? Do they need to review this with? I'm in business to make money today. I'm not in business to make money tomorrow in 5 years. I'm in business to make money today. And so I want to make sure that, you know, they're in a position where they can say yes or no. And sometimes I tell them, I'm going to send you an offer here. Would you please just do me a favor? And will you tell me yes or no? Please don't say I need to think about it. Otherwise, we're just wasting each other's time. I don't want to waste your time. Can you give me a yes or a no if I make you an offer today? One of my favorite questions is, what would it take to make this happen today? And sometimes they're going to say, well, I want to close, I can't wait for 90 days. I want to close in 30 days. So whenever they give an objection to my price or my terms or whatever, I'm always saying, well, if I could do that, would you do a deal today? It's the if this, then that. So I'm answering their objection or their question with a question. That's all I got for now. There's a lot more in this script. I want to get this to you. If you just go to simplelandkit.com, get this script for free. And the whole point of this, guys, again, just to summarize this, to wrap it up in a nice little bow. If you're not on the phone, you're not making money. So talk to 5 people a day. And all you need to do is ask them questions, all right? Tell me about the property, and why should I want to buy your property and not the other 100 that are here listed for sale? Let them know you're an investor. You're not a retail buyer. You're not going to pay full price for the property. You just want to get some more information about the property. Okay, you're in the driver's seat, guys. This isn't a cactus. This is a phone. This will make you a lot of money, and all you need to do is practice. That's it for now. Go to simplelandkit.com if you want the script. It's yours for free. We'll see you. Take care.